Good evening, folks. Hobby Talk with PSA Canada for October 22nd, 2022. Luke is back. Good evening, Luke. How are you doing?
Good, yourself?
I am doing well, sir. I'm doing well. Thank you for joining us once again. We'll be sitting here having a little bit of a chat of a couple of things coming up here. I know one of the things we'll definitely be talking about a little bit is there'll be an upcoming show here from Montreal. So that'll be kind of fun. I know Yannick and some other folks are going to be having a good time with that, so that should be fun. We're basically we're in the road to Expo now. So we're down to nitty gritty here. We'll have the Montreal show this weekend here, and then also next week will be a regular show. So just so everybody's aware from a programming perspective, it'll be a regular show, regular time. It'll be Thursday 9 p.m. just like this week. And then Brad and myself will get together and we'll figure out the schedule for the following week because that's Expo week. And then things get real fun and real interesting. And I think we'll have a few more things to say about Expo, although we'll touch on it towards the end of the show. Mm-hmm. Usual thing, if there are any questions about anything, feel free to ask them. And if you want any updates on any orders or anything, throw them in the chat and then Sherry can check it out and kind of give you a little bit of an update provided for you. And as usual, if you check it out on the replay, and by the way, the last episode was very well received. I think it was a record number of views for us for the episode, so that's awesome. So thank you for the support. And also remember, we charge Eric every single time somebody hits the like button. And it was a very good episode last week, so we did very well with that. I'll tell you, Eric, it was a red letter week. Eric right now is slaving away somewhere trying to earn money for more like buttons. Yeah. Think about that. Very important. Very important. So Brad, how was the week that was this past week?
You know what? We had it was a really good week. It was very busy. I think I'm going to say that we probably took in close to 5,000 cards this week.
Nice.
Which is a big week for us, which is great to see. So that was very impressive. We got everything ready to roll. We're going to ship next week on Wednesday. We shipped this week already. So we're going to see how many cards we get at the Montreal Expo this weekend. And very excited for that. I've had a lot of calls. I have a lot of meetings with different people that are going to come in with stuff. So yeah, I'll be excited to see.
I think that sounds good. I think it'll be fun. It'll be kind of interesting to see how things end up being here coming up. And it is good to hear that the demand has stayed pretty high. I guess that $18 price point has proven to be very popular, and we kind of suspected it would be. It's hard to gauge though. At the end of the day, people are price conscious, and deservedly so, and I think that's completely fair. They were waiting for the price. That sub $20 is this psychological barrier. Like I said, it sounds weird, but people I think underplay the psychological element of it. Just being able to say, okay, under $20, obviously you translate to Canadian dollars, but still less so than it was previously. For us, under $30. The point is that it brings it down to a price point that makes it a little bit more accessible. Doesn't mean you're going to send everything. That doesn't make sense. But it does mean certain things become more viable and a lot more interesting at that price point.
Yep. No, like I said on previous episodes too, it's nice to see the packages that are coming in. It's more quality cards over quantity. Again, at the end of the day, for us, we make more money with quantity, but we do want to look at the overall big picture of things. So when you're seeing people's orders come in that are prepped properly, you look at them, it's impressive.
Very nice, very nice. Anything you saw this week, Luke, on your end? Have you noticed anything in terms of submissions or people sending in some stuff? Are you feeling any change at all with that price change, or is it just business as usual right now for you?
You know, I think there's a little bit of increase for sure. I mean, we actually had two shows last Saturday, Sunday. Mm-hmm. Both shows actually were way better than previous years or previous months. Okay. So, I mean, so they have increased. And I think it's, it's a little slower now, kind of, because, I mean, more or less people have big enough stuff that they had from previous before. There's no new product coming out yet, right? So, especially for hockey. So, I think once we see Series 1, it should be more of an influx. Maybe not this year's or whatever. Maybe, I don't know. There's a few guys in this year's class, but I'm not too happy about Series 1 this year. So I'm $10 in there.
I got you. I think it's unfortunate because a lot of those products do rely on the rookie class, and that's not something you can necessarily control. And now Upper Deck has a little bit of say in that, but at the same time, I also understand from their perspective, they got to leave something for Series 2. So they have to kind of position themselves in a way where like, well, we got to have something. Otherwise you guys aren't going to buy the other series. And also those delays have really hurt in a lot of ways because there's a lot of folks who are like, hey, when's the product coming out? And that's unfortunately been a problem that Upper Deck has had to fight its way through. And obviously that affects us because they produce the hockey cards.
And the other thing too for Series 1 is cost is up 15%. right from the distributors on Upper Deck this year. So that's going to play into it as well. So.
Right. Now that's definitely going to change up the value dynamic. Well, we talked about earlier before, like the impactful thing was providing a slightly lower cost option. Increasing the price on anything right now, I don't think it's going to motivate the consumer. They're going to be like, well, let me think about that one a little bit more. Let me take a pause here and give it a thought. So first of all, here, good evening, Yannick. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. I know Yannick, as I mentioned, will be at Montreal, so I think that'll be fun for those guys to be able to check out and have a show this weekend. So I think that's fun. Last week we covered for the most part the questions. The only one was Hobby Cop did ask about a mustache on a 33 Gaudi card, so that's fun. That's kind of in the it used to be Mark, because you used to have the Mark cards, the MK. That used to be your way of kind of getting around that, so that's pretty fun.
Yeah.
So let me read this comment here real quick. I'm sure there'll be a wave of Charizards in the next couple of weeks. Charizard Ultra Premium Collection releases tomorrow. Perfect timing. All right, sir. If you're good, just give me a thumbs up and I'll bring you on. Beautiful. Good evening.
Sorry.
How are you?
Hi. Time management. Not
No worries. All good. And how are you doing?
not bad. Yourselves?
Doing well.
Yeah.
So we brought back the all-star team here. Like I said, last week was the most viewed episode we've ever had so far. So,
I know. I like it.
We set a new standard. We set a new bar.
That's all that matters.
That's right. But so as Ryan mentions here, the Charizard Ultra Premium Collection releases tomorrow, so it's good. That means there's still some other issues coming out. But that's the kind of thing I think people underestimate, and this is maybe just a thought that I just want to put out there. I think people underestimate the importance of net new product, because I, in my end of things, as a content creator where I do stuff, I always get the people that are like, oh, vintage. It's like, look, Dan, I collect vintage. I understand. But that's not necessarily driving this market. It's the new stuff that is driving the market, because that's the stuff that people look at, evaluate, and choose if they want to submit it in. The vintage stuff is already there. You either want to grade it or you don't, and that's completely up to you. It just depends on what your use case is, and I'm not saying everything requires it. It doesn't. But the new stuff is where, like, okay, as new stuff gets produced, some of that will get sent off for grading, and in turn, that's a lot of the new stuff that's being churned out the other way. It's just common sense. New product in the market, more opportunities for people to review it and decide, oh, actually, I would like to get that encapsulated for whatever purposes I might have.
Yeah, that's true. And you look at this too, being PSA Canada, being in business for over 22 years now, and the clientele that Len had over the years, if you go back and look at the submissions, 90% was vintage. Mm-hmm. And then it just graduated over the last 6-7 years. It started to be more modern. And now when I look at it, I'd like to say 95% of the stuff we get in now would be modern to ultra modern, like new, from 95 up. It's really, you don't see big lots of vintage. You see the vintage cards rolling in, but I don't see, a lot of 62, 63 Parkies. I think that's the next wave for that. Well, the price point has to get down lower than where it's at. I feel like it's going to have to be in that, the $15 Canadian. If we get down to that point at some point, then I think that's when we'll see an influx of those type of things. So,
I agree.
Yeah, I did have some interesting cards today. I had an order pop. This is pretty cool. The guy sent in a bunch of O-Pee-Chee baseball.
Okay.
And I remember looking at the package. There was probably 10, 15 cards in there. Mm-hmm. And out of those, there was 4 or 5 PSA 10s, which was you just don't see, like a 81 O-Pee-Chee Ricky Henderson PSA 10. I don't know what the pop is. I have no idea. There was some very cool cards that came through. So.
Early 80s Ricky and a PSA 10 is very difficult. The 80 tops is notorious for being extremely, to the point that people are absolutely paranoid about pop control on that one. Absolutely paranoid. But it is a very difficult issue to gem. And 81 wasn't really that much better. I don't know what the pop report is on it, but 81 tops is not exactly an easy issue to get a good grade on. And 81 O-Pee-Chee is produced in lesser quantities, so I wouldn't think that'd be easier. I think that'd be more difficult. But that's an interesting combination.
I'm trying to think of the other guys that there was. There was a couple other, like there was 73, 74, 75 O-Pee-Chee Bobby Orr, PSA 10, which just, again, you just don't see the pop report on that would have to be, I'd say, less than 10.
That'd be a tough one. Yeah. That's not a particularly good year for a lot of the grading in those. One point that I was going to make, part of the reason that I said that it does make sense that it would be, that it would lean more modern, is just that, well, let's say you're a collector, pure collector, and you just want it for the holder, for set registry or whatever. it's not like you need to send in the same card over and over again. Once you submit it and you've gotten it back, it's like, well, all right, it's already encapsulated. You don't need to redo the encapsulation over and over and over again. A lot of these longtime collectors are satisfied with what they got. And it could have been encapsulated years and years ago. So at that point, it's kind of out of circulation. You don't need to bring it back. I watched, I'll say Sports Card Investor did his double shot of Marshall Fogle. So he had the big extended cut. I enjoyed the extended cut. I got a kick out of it. And Marshall Fogle's an interesting dude. I'll say, very interesting dude. Great collection. Yeah, absolutely. Great collection. Tons of amazing stuff. A lot of which was purchased at a time where like he was wise to purchase it at the time that it was purchased, because obviously it allowed him to get it at a much more accessible price point than it would be today. For the unfamiliar, he's one of the people who has one of the 3 PSA 10 52 tops manels. In addition to having a ton of like crazy high end vintage, his vintage collection is like all PSA 8s basically and up. So it's like crazy stuff, including Cracker Jack cards, which I think are created on like Post-it note paper. Like it's super thin. It basically disintegrates in your hand. Trust me, if you've ever seen that issue, you'll know. But like all in 8s, crazy stuff. Shulos Joe Jackson, ton of amazing stuff. But the point is that a bunch of that stuff was graded years ago, so you can kind of tell from the holder and the label and everything that. So for him, and he throws the holders around like just for fun, and he did it during that video. But as long as the holder itself is intact and it's like, and he's satisfied with it, he doesn't just need to resend the stuff in for reholdering. So some of that stuff was probably holstered 15, 20 years ago. Well, that means it's not going to get sent in again necessarily. There's really no reason for him to do it unless the case is cracked or something, or he just likes the new label and he needs the Lighthouse label for some reason, but probably not. Otherwise, it's just not a good use of his money. But that means that card will not get regraded again necessarily for a long time. And if that's true, well, then the whole thing with vintage is that we're not making anymore, which means the more stuff is encapsulated, that means it's out of circulation. That means it can't be regraded again unless something happens. Mm-hmm. So the supply just dwindles, and eventually you run into stuff. It's like, well, do you really want to grade it? It's like, not necessarily. And that's okay. And that's fine. But that just means that you're going to have less vintage. Just naturally, you're going to have less vintage, right?
Yeah. You can see how much of a true collector he is, though. Like he was having fun, and he really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the extended, just like you said, the extended cut. It was like when he was just, people were like, oh, he's just firing those cards. No, he was enjoying it. He was like, let's have some fun. It was bringing back memories of him.
I think it was freaking out Jeff. Jeff was like,
Jeff was not loving that.
He was like, I'm scared.
Gloves were even, they had no sleeves in them either, eh?
No, I know. He was tossing it around.
That's the part that made me laugh. That's why I say Marshall Fogle is an interesting dude. So Dave here just says he's a nice guy, which fair enough, Dave. But I get a kick out of it. Like, he's an interesting dude, and he's not shy to share. He's certainly willing to share. Like, obviously, for him, he probably saw it as a great opportunity to showcase some of that stuff. He did the thing where he did the whole, and they talked about it during that extended cut. He did the whole thing where they made a whole show of doing it in the armored car and moving the 52 tops mantle and everything. Mm-hmm. And obviously, like, yes, it's for security, of course. But there was no discretion in that. Like, the police escort in the whole 9 yards. Like, he didn't hire private security to do it. He's like, can you guys hit the sirens and make it really loud? I want everybody to look at it. Yeah. Look at it. It's like, can you put a spotlight on me from a helicopter or something? Like, no, we can't get that for you. Later. I think he would have done it. If they had been able to rent it, I'm sure they would have done it. But yeah, he's not shy about making a whole show of it. The great irony is that Golden is going to have his show, his Netflix show or whatever. It's like Marshall Fogle should probably have his own show. It'd probably be a little bit more interesting. That'd be my opinion. And I'm sure he'd get a kick out of it, honestly.
He'd love it.
Oh, 100%. He's got an original 1915 Cracker Jack set years ago. Absolutely. 100% Dave. You're 100% right. Here Eric is saying, I'm working my third job because of these stupid like buttons. And on a related note, keep hitting the like button. I charge him for it. I'm not a professional catwalker. Hey, he needs exercise. Hit the like button so he can get more exercise. This is good. Let me tell you, cats don't like being on leash. You're welcome, Eric. And thank you once again for your patronage and support of the like button. One that had been sent off as a complete set from the company and kept that way for years. Absolutely. He got through a lot of his material through Doug Allen. By the way, Dave has a lot of background and history on a lot of the hobby players. So thank you, Dave, as always. Appreciate it. The 52 tops and 15 Cracker Jack, totally original. His T cards, well, believe what you want. There you go. It is difficult for tobacco cards to be in like 8 condition. Mm-hmm. You just have to understand that. It is very difficult. I'm not going to accuse anyone of anything, but there may be scissors involved or very careful cutters. It's like, it's one of those things. It's very difficult. Not impossible, but it's extraordinarily, even back in the day, even if you
Isn't
have
that
a discerning eye. Go ahead.
Isn't that one high grade Honus Wagner?
The
Like,
first PSA card ever graded. PSA
Yeah.
card number 1. Yes.
isn't that one questionable?
No.
Questionable as in it's trimmed. It's 100%. There's no question. It's trimmed. 100%. Yes.
Fair.
Yeah. It says 100% true as me charging Eric for the like button. It is guaranteed money in the bank. Book it. Yeah, it was Bill Mastro, and he admitted to it years ago. He admitted, I think it was in court. He actually admitted that he did it. Apparently, the story was that it was there was either from a sheet or from a panel, or they had extra material. So in reality, you could make it the correct size. So the issue isn't that it's the wrong size or whatever. The issue is that it didn't start off life as a crisp edges, card. But by the time someone came out with it, it had nice corners and edges, and it's good. It's a PSA 8 now.
I know that's quite the infamous card. That's for damn sure.
It is. Well, look, it's had books written about it. Okay, it's had
Yeah.
books written about it. So you just have to understand it is infamous.
You know about it, so there you go. That tells you.
Yeah.
And I genuinely believe that if it went up for auction now, I think with the infamous history and the provenance and all the people because that was the Gretzky McNall one, like it's been owned by a variety of interesting characters. So in and of itself, the provenance still has value. There's somebody out there who'd be like, yeah, I'll buy it. I'll pay good money for it. Why not? Sure. Let's do it. Good evening, Josh. Absolutely. Up the light count. Appreciate that, Josh. Nova Grower says PSA trim, the first tobacco card ever graded. That's the one we're talking about. Yes. Hi, Brad and all. Hope everyone's well. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate that. They've part of the master plea deal. He trimmed it twice. It was from a small partial sheet with like 4 or 5 of their cards. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. I knew it was something in that vein. It's been years, but I remembered a lot of. That's one of those things where, like, if you've been around a long time or you've been in the hobby a long time, you hear the story, and also you can do the research. And by the way, go check out things like Net54. Like, there's good information out there. Like, it's kind of commonly known, but it's interesting when people who are newer to the hobby go, "Wait a minute, it's trimmed." It's like, yes. Mm-hmm. And it's like, but isn't that? It's like, look, it is not my place to cast judgment.
Yeah.
I will simply state the facts. The whole point of the angle we've taken with this show is that I will simply tell you the truth. I will tell you what I know, and I will tell you the truth. I leave it to you to decide for yourself how to judge it from there. If your question is it trimmed? My answer is yes. A definitive yes.
Fair enough.
Easy. Like, who would you rather listen to? The guy who pretends and acts all coy. It's like, well, I'm not sure. I don't know. Or it's like, yeah, 100%. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like, but isn't that like not my place to judge that one? I leave it to y'all to figure out what to do with that information. There you go. Good stuff, guys. I appreciate it. Mm-hmm. No, very good. Anything new in your manner of business there, Kevin?
Just a lot of cards showing up.
All right. So you're seeing a bit of an uptick. The TCG thing is kind of working out for you, or?
Yeah, it's been crazy this week. I mean, I sent Brad like 1,200 cards on Tuesday. I probably had that many sitting on my table right next to me right now to finish up and put in, and then a couple people last minute trying to get in for the special for that price point. So they're sending a couple hundred cards that haven't got here. So deal with those, and then hopefully, I mean, I don't want it to slow down, but hopefully I get a little break shortly.
It's good that Toronto, we're going to be full. The full team will be there. We'll be on fire. It's going to be interesting to see. Like we kind of talk internally how many cards we will get, and you never know. Obviously, this year at the Expo is going to be it's a very different situation. How Steve Menzies set us up, I think it's great. He put us. It's like the grading center, so all 5 of the grading companies that are there, either encapsulating on site or like us taking submissions, are all together. All together and directly across is JSA doing authentication. It's going to be an interesting spot. I do think it's easy for the public to know. They can come down, they can educate themselves, check out all the grading companies, and come by and hopefully stop and leave some cards with us.
Yep. And based on the floor plan, I'll probably show it here in a couple of minutes. It's a little tricky with, obviously we got booth numbers, but we don't have like the specifics, but we can see obviously it had to expand out into a second hall. So we're going to see how that one plays out, because that was a very interesting outcome last time. It feels like it's going to be, based on this alignment, it feels like it's going to be similar to last time, where you've got the big hall and then like a path to get to this other hall. It's going to be kind of interesting how this is structured.
Yeah.
I'm worried for the dealers that are in the other hall, though, because you're going to have the autograph guests there. You're going to have that section over there. But that didn't seem to help out last time. So that's kind of an interesting play, an interesting decision.
But last
Yeah,
time they
look
didn't
at
have.
Good.
Last time they didn't have these kind of signers as they do this time. So maybe that might help out. I don't know. This time
It
it's
is
got really
it is a
good signers.
very, very heavy presence with a lot of signers. So I do agree with that. I think that's a very good point, Luke.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
And
Like,
you'll
there'll be
learn
foot
from-
traffic in the vicinity. There will be foot traffic in the vicinity for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Josh,
and you can learn from what they did. So, like, I mean, last time, obviously, the signage and other things, it was kind of, well, everyone talked about it. It wasn't really easy for people to understand what to do. This time, Steve and his team have a good sense of what they have to do to make it people fully aware. So I think people will spread out through the whole show. I'm pretty confident in that.
all right, we'll have to see. I think that'll be interesting how that one plays out. Josh here says, for submitting at Expo in a couple of weeks, is there a form I can print out for submitting, or do it in person when you arrive? So process-wise, what are you guys looking at for this time around?
Yeah, so the same thing. We can do it either or. We have custom sheets done now, submission forms that you can do on site, or we can email you over a copy and you can fill it out. But it's no problem at all, Josh. If you just want to come by, we can fill out the sheet for you pretty quickly. So, and if you want, you can send over. You can reach us. Our email's on here now. Well, PSA Canada at collectors.com. Just shoot us an email, Josh. We can send you over the
Sounds
form.
good. I'll add that into the scrolling ticker for next time so we can manage that. So Nova here is saying, does Dr. Price bother with Expo anymore? I haven't seen him in a while. I haven't seen him in the last couple. It's changed, obviously, now that he does do the President's Choice cards, so he still does that. But obviously, he doesn't set up from a corporate perspective at all with any of those material, because it's kind of a boutique operation for him to do it. I don't know if he still attends like as an attendee, as a visitor. I haven't seen or heard from him in years, I don't think.
Yeah, the last time I seen him, I remember, I actually bought a bunch of stuff. They had the Boom Boom Jeffrey on Maurice Richard, like those Parky reprint 8x10 signed. They're always like a crazy good price. I mean, I think he ran out of rockets maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but it was like 10 or 15 bucks. They were super cool, signed by all the guys.
Yeah. Well, he's good with the memorabilia and autographs and material. He's had his hand on a lot of good stuff over the years. So there's definitely a lot. From the bench, good evening. Absolutely. And Yannick says, the second hall last year found us a Campanella. Yes, I did get a 53 tops Campanella over in the dark corner where they were lonely. They were the Maytag repairman. I went and said hello, and we were able to work out a deal. So at least it made him a couple bucks. Yeah. That's why I'm kind of concerned for that corner. Like I said, we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. Again, it's going to really depend on how well they're able to encourage traffic. If you can encourage people to be there as early as possible to at least get some people in that vicinity, maybe it'll encourage them to come in the various days. And I think the VIP night will be a good test, because if you can't get people to be in that area for the first night, it's going to be really hard for the subsequent days, because they may not even think about it. If they find the other stuff, then that'll be the end of that. Eric here says Dr. Price has the best hobby stories. He's got a ton of background. He's got a ton of history in the hobby. He's been around a long time. Then he was involved in a lot of stuff, operating a whole manufacturer and everything. So,
what day does Eric arrive in Toronto? Just so we can all fully be prepared. Is he a Thursday arrival, I assume?
That's true. It's like, Eric, so when are you flying in on Tim's big hat? He's gonna come in, because Tim, who does Slapstrong, he's got those big oversized ridiculous hats. So I would just say, it's like, you guys could probably save some fuel. You could just fly in on it, just strap a couple of wings to it and just fly down. Just hang on, you'll be fine. It'll be good. It looks like it's the 9th, so Eric will be coming in on the 9th. So you can all prepare yourself for a local hobby celebrity. We might for everybody who comes by, I might just, maybe what I'll do is I'll see if I can order a shirt that's a big old like button, and I'll just have Eric wear it. And every time somebody comes by and nudges the like button, we'll bill him for that too. You can just see him out and about, stick with the branding. That might be the next logical step. We'll have to see. So let me ask a question. I know you guys are mainly going to be working the booth, so Luke and Kevin, and of course Brad, But here's a question: are you guys going to make any time, find any time? You're going to wander around and get anything for yourselves? Is there anything that you are interested in doing, kind of from an expo perspective? Anything that you'd like to do for your own collecting purposes? Luke or Kevin?
I mean, I'll go first. I always like going to the sports shows because you never know what you're going to find on the TCG side. So, I mean, me and Brad were at the National, found some pretty good Pokemon deals from sports vendors that couldn't care less about Pokemon. So I'm always excited for that. Never know what's going to be there, but not too much. I'll buy collections if they pop up, but I'm not too much. Sorry, my dog's weaving between my legs right now. But yeah, I'll be open to kind of seeing what's around, but hopefully some people bring up a lot of people brought up some cool Pokemon stuff when we were at the Expo in June. So hopefully same kind of stuff happens, more of a buying atmosphere, it sounds like. So yeah.
Well, we'll have to see. Usually the fall is the busier of the two shows, so it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. Same question for you, Luke. Anything you're kind of looking for from your perspective?
The stuff I like or whatever isn't usually there. The Marvel or the old Jordan stickers and stuff like that is what I'm getting or whatever. But I mean, other than that, you know what? I love going to the expo for like exploring around and talking to people and meeting the people that have, I know their name, but I've never seen their face.
Right.
And so it's nice to just sit down and chat with them and say hi to them or even just shake their hand and stuff, right? I mean, like Alex last year, I never really seen the guy, but he's he submitted like 200 cards with me at one time and stuff like that. And he came over with donuts, and at the booth. It was great to just see him like that, stuff like that. So I think, I love the expo because of that. Just seeing all the other stores and, stuff that I don't, see often or when I go to Toronto, right? So.
That sounds good. Now, the pertinent follow-up question. What kind of donuts are we talking about?
I think he brought Krispy Kreme donuts last time.
Really?
Wow. I think
the
so.
infamous Krispy Kreme. My God, there's got to be like one left.
Yeah, I think there's one.
It's so busy that I looked at it and I said, no, I don't want one right now. But then after I thought about it, I thought, man, I would have loved it.
Like I was gonna say, I feel like there's still a location active, like one location active, because Krispy Kreme did not work out. It did not work out at all. They tried, but it just didn't resonate.
Mississauga.
Yeah, I think there's still one there. I think that's the last one that still operates. They were able to find and carve out a niche for themselves just because it was different, but
Always
it's just standalone. Yeah,
that
it's a standalone location. It's just the one. It was like
the first Krispy Kreme donut I ever had was in Vegas. I don't know if you guys ever gone down there before and stuff, but you see the whole factory and you see the donuts being actually made. There's a big glass, you can actually watch it all. And man, when I bit into the donut, it was so amazing. It's the best donut I've ever had.
Okay.
It's because the story behind it.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I have indeed been to Vegas. I was in Vegas for my 30th birthday. I wasn't remembering donuts. I'm just saying. No judgment. But just to be clear, donuts were not what I was concerned with at the time.
I've got stories of that at donuts, but I can't talk about it.
Donuts you can speak on. But other things. I just sat there and I was like, hey, it happens. All good. I just thought it was funny. Krispy Kreme still does orders for the hockey team fundraisers. Okay, fair enough. I like that. It's interesting. Are we talking donuts? Hey, man, you brought it up. I had to, as an intrepid reporter, I had to ask the follow-up question. It was pertinent to understand what kind of donuts we're talking about. Very important. We needed to know. The people needed to know. But no, that's good. I think that'll be interesting. I'll be honest, from my perspective, and I'm finding it's getting worse. Because I saw on Instagram, I had a couple of people send me a message to pass along that there was a couple of cards. And the truth is, I have found too much stuff pre-expo. It's like it's been draining any hobby budget I had sitting around. It's like, and one of them is one of my buddies, and I'll share it with you guys afterwards. But I'm sitting there like, and it's one of those things. I could take it or leave it, but we could probably figure out a deal to make it work. And if I do, that's another kind of more expensive card. It's like, oh, geez. Like, is there going to be any money left for the expo? Like, what did you buy at the expo? I think I bought a beer. I think that's all I had money left for. I think I bought a beer because I spent the rest of it. It's like, oh, but you didn't buy any cards? I bought them all beforehand. It's like,
well, you're going to have Modano there. Modano's going to be signing there too, right?
Yeah, but I talked to some folks about it. I think that'll be fun. We'll see if we can work something out with that. But the truth is that Modano has signed at the expo before. I actually had him sign last time. I had him sign an autographed jersey, and a buddy of mine reminded me. And actually, it's a video that I want to do. I think I've got 3 or 4 autographed Medano jerseys. I've got 2 or 3 autographed pucks. I got this thing here. I got 8x10s. Like, I have plenty of signed Medano swag. It's like I've run out of crap for Medano to sign at this point. I've got 1 replica jersey left, I think, and that's the last one. It was from the 2000 All-Star Game, and I got it at the 2000 All-Star Game in Toronto. So I got the replica jersey at the time. I actually wore it, and I wore it in school back when we actually cared about it in school. I still got that replica jersey, so I could get him to sign that one. But I think that's the last Medano replica jersey I've got. I've got a couple of Dallas Star ones. I've got Minnesota North Stars. I've got the All-Star one that potentially I could get signed. I think the only thing I'd be missing is maybe like a Team USA or something like that. And then I'd have like the gamut of autographed jerseys from him.
You're
To
not
go
allowed
along
to-
with the rest of
Go
it.
for the game worn.
Yeah.
Well, the game worn, I had a chance to get the game worn years ago because Maigret used to have that stuff.
Yeah.
But a Medano game worn back then was like $4,000.
Bet you it's more now.
Oh yeah, it is. It is. It's not like I happen to have thousands and thousands of dollars sitting around at the time, but I could have probably, if I had pressed for it, I could have gotten a game worn. They did have one time for 5,000. They had a Medano gamer from the 2000 Stanley Cup, and I was like, ooh, but that's the one they lost. It doesn't feel quite as good. It's a little bit feel bad, man. A little bit feels bad. It's like, but it was a gamer. But it was a gamer from the Stanley Cup. So that one I guess got sold years ago, and it probably got chopped up at this point. It's probably been used for game use. But you could have bought them. Maigret used to have a lot of that stuff, so it was very interesting the way it worked out. Josh has 6 locations remain in Ontario. There you go, beautiful. Josh, I'll buy you a beer Friday afternoon, and I will take you up on that beer, sir. Much appreciated. Nova here says, has PSA started grading the Funkos yet? I think they've started. They have it now officially.
Yeah, yes, they have. So we're looking at potentially doing that, but it won't be until 2023. Same as for WADA video games. We're actually going to be doing in the next week, just a little training. I guess you could say training course on it, but just to kind of bring us up to speed because it's new to us. We understand the whole grading process, but by no means am I a video game expert. So we're going to just kind of learn the ins and outs, what they're looking for, so we could educate our potential new customer base as well. So that's going to happen next week. We'll have a few WADA games on display at our booth. If for anyone that hasn't seen them, we'd love to have you come by and take a look. I find that that's probably the same. I haven't seen a Funko encapsulated yet by PSA. But all those things, when you see them, regardless of the grading companies, when you get them in hand, that's when you really appreciate it. When you hold a WADA video game, when it is encapsulated, you see how it displays, you get a whole new appreciation for it as well. So,
No, I think that's fair.
I'm going to let my dog go quick. Just give me 1 sec. I'm going to mute myself. You guys continue.
No worries. Sounds good. I was going to say, it'll be interesting to see what kind of training they offer you as far as that's concerned. That's the part I'm curious about. That'll be its own little thing. The video game thing obviously is very interesting, kind of the way that market has turned out. And I have more comments about that, but I will refrain for now. We can have a little fun with that later. But for now, it'll be very interesting. I'll be kind of curious to see what happens with that one. So Eric says, that jersey got bad juju. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, part of my hesitancy, like, look, it wasn't cheap. $5,000. I think it was $5,000 US on top of everything else. So like, it's not like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. Yeah, here, hold on. Let me just hand you my credit card. Yeah, just charge that. No worries. I don't have that kind of money sitting around, so it's a little bit of a different thing. But it was interesting. I'll be honest, it was compelling. But it's one of those things, and this has always been the thing with me with jerseys. I like the concept, but I don't have the space necessarily to be going and getting those big jersey frames because right now, honestly, my autographed jerseys I've got now are sitting on hangers in the kind of the closet, or you can put them bag over them. But it's like I haven't been able to display them ever, really. There's a possibility I'm going to try down the road here to maybe get a couple of them framed up and find a spot for them. But it's like it's not like jerseys are small; they take up a lot of space. They're actually quite large, especially if you don't like fold them up and try to do something like that. It's like, guys, they're neat, but they take up room.
Yeah, there's only so much space. That's one of the things I mean, besides my absolute love for cards, like you can have a serious collection in a shoebox. You know what I mean? And you still have that. Space is an issue. Although I did add 2 pieces this week to my personal collection that are rather large, which I'm going to keep one of them. I had two. I bought two pieces, Serena Williams from Upper Deck. One is the show, the big autograph that they do with charcoal. And the other one's, what's the other one? Oh, it's I forget what they call it. Like it's glass in the front. The hockey one's called Above the Ice, how they do it. I forget what they call it in the tennis, but
I like this response. Yes, he is a man. That sounds like a response I would give. It sounds about right.
We should mention too, Carlos, that I know we did talk about it, but our Friday night at the show is customer appreciation. So we are going to do that from 5 o'clock until for 5:30 till 8. We're going to have a section set up right by the autograph pavilion. There's going to be a Q&A that's going to be going on with all the members from Slapshot.
Nice.
Which is pretty cool. So if you're in our section, we'll have lots of complimentary beverages available for everyone that comes by. So we might even get, we haven't talked about it much, Carlos, but I feel like you could hold that court pretty well in there for us to.
Oh, I might have to that'll be. You mean hold on the court of the tickets, or you mean like MC?
Yeah, you might be our ticket guy. You might be our beverage ticket guy.
It's like sold out. It's like, but you just started sold out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, we'll figure it out. We'll have to see kind of how this thing plays out. We'll see. Let me scroll through here. So yeah, it's like no. There's always plenty to talk about in that world. So there you go. But yeah, no, it happens. Hardest working man in sports card YouTube, my friend. Hardest working man in sports card YouTube. But I think that will be very interesting. We'll have to see kind of how that one plays out. Now here's a question. We did talk about the Montreal thing briefly. What's the setup going to be? Are you guys going to have a booth? Like, what is the setup for the Montreal show?
Yeah, so we have a single booth there, but myself and Luke will be there. We also have some friends coming up from Halifax as well that are going to be at the show. So we'll be taking submissions the whole time. We have a bunch of guys. The last time we did it, it wasn't as good as we anticipated. Okay. But we didn't market it. We didn't really go there. So this time I think it's going to be a lot different. But yeah, so we have a booth set up. We'll be taking submissions. We're going to get them back. Any submissions we take, we'll have them back in Halifax on Monday, and we'll be shipping them by Wednesday to PSA in Santa Ana, California. So we have the full team. We're going to make sure we get them all done.
Now, is there going to be a time period? I'm kind of curious. This is just kind of a general question based on what you just said. Is there going to be a time period that you expect that it'll be switching over from the California to the New Jersey location? Or is it something where it's just kind of waiting for the go-ahead on that?
Yeah, so I was told it's not going to be for some time.
Okay.
Obviously, for us logistically, it would be better.
Yeah.
But as you can attest, lately we've been shipping packages and they've been getting there the next morning. But it still would be easier if it could go to the New Jersey office. But I was told it won't be for some time. So okay. I don't know exactly what that means, but that was my answer. But we might be able to find some more about that when we have some of the PSA representatives that are going to join us at the booth this weekend. So we're excited for that as well. Ryan, I think I mentioned it, Ryan Miller, the head of international business development with PSA. He's going to be with us for a few days, which will be great. And I think there's a few other people that are going to be joining us as well. So
I think that makes sense. Sounds good. And also kind of a general question, since we talked about it with the pricing and everything. For the TCG and I know the $18 one right now is the bulk rate, so we're good there. For the TCG one, is that a special or is that ongoing for a bit here? When's the special go to? Do we have a date on that?
Yeah, so the special ends as long as your submission's done by the 31st, then it will still be accepted. So you have to have that done by the 31st. But we're trying to figure out something that we might run for the Expo. So we haven't. We got to discuss that.
see, the thing is, you need. I actually should have asked. I actually should have asked earlier so I could get in my precious Albert Pujols. I might have to overnight the damn thing to you now.
Like, you know what? I can do up the submission. I can add that in there on that.
You better. That's the only TCG card that matters.
There you go.
Carlos, you can drop it off to me. I'm in Ontario. I'll get.
It's like, go TCG this. Let's go, Albert. Go. The only rookie that matters.
No, we have to do that though. We have to. You know what? Sherry's got an 80 card submission she's working on right now for bulk for her Pokemon stuff. So we'll add that.
We'll have to make some arrangement. We will figure this out because we're not denying Al Pujols like his rightful due as being part of that TCG order. It's been decreed. It's been written in the stars. It has to happen.
What's Sherry submitting?
What's that?
What's Sherry submitting?
Well, I think she's
I
got
don't
some
know.
Pokemon. She's got some Pokemon. I think I've seen some Pokemon before.
I honestly, I don't think I've ever seen anyone enjoy opening up cards as much as she does.
That's
She
amazing.
loves that Pokemon more and more.
I know. Yeah, she's.
We have to trade her when in Toronto.
This
Well,
is
the
what
thing-
she's at.
The thing is, I'll be honest. I find it hard to imagine people that don't enjoy opening stuff. Like it's fun. It's fun. Opening packs is fun. I think people enjoy it.
Just in case anyone from Grosvenor is watching, it's this does not release till tomorrow. We did have it. We got it in early, but it's not going to be open. Oh, somebody might have. Is that from this, Kevin?
Yeah.
Oh, so someone opened it early. You got to be careful about that.
Embargo.
We
Somebody
have not opened it
dropped
early.
them off today.
We might need a couple more like buttons to pay for this embargo infraction. People, I charge Eric for it. Hit the like button. It's free for you. I charge Eric. We're going to need the money for the embargo.
Yeah, a guy texted me on Monday saying that he was able to get them from a store and opened them all and drove down from Toronto and dropped them off to me so that he could get them for the submission. And I was like, I sell Pokemon, so I was like, you should not have had these. Like,
There's something. This is pretty cool. Sherry got this made for Corey from Show My Slabs.
Okay.
Did that up for that. We picked it up at the last Toronto show, which turned out nice. That's some of her Pokemon collection.
Nice. All right. I like it.
I love it.
It's one of those things where like, look, my opinion has always been, because there's always used to be a thing around the house when I used to be over at the house. My parents live a couple blocks down the road. They live in their place there. But when I used to live at the house, it'd be one of those things. Even when I was collecting cards and I'd buy a box or something, it'd be like I'd have it on the dining room table and open it up. And Carlos Senior doesn't collect anything. He'd come by and go, "So what are you doing?" I go, "I'm opening cards." He goes, he'd grab a pack. I go, "What are we looking for?" It doesn't matter. People like opening the packs. They like seeing what's inside. It doesn't make any difference. They're like,
That's my brother, too.
it didn't matter what it was. It did not matter what it was. It didn't matter, like, you just give them a little information. They're like, all right. And they would start going through it. My younger brother, who doesn't care about that stuff, he'd open a pack. Like, it doesn't matter. People enjoy the thing. They want to know what's inside. It's like Christmas. They want to know. Open the pack and find out what's in there. It's fun. Everybody has a good time with it.
I love opening Tim Hortons. It's still I don't drink coffee, but Sherry does. My mother buys them, and every time I come home, there's a pack or 2 packs or 3 packs on the counter. Like, I thoroughly enjoy it. And I can say that besides the boxes, like we opened up a full box and obviously you get cards out of it. I bet I've opened 50 or 60 packs now, and I have never pulled a flow card out of it. I'm getting
occasionally I'll buy something like this. This stuff isn't worth anything really, but it's one of those things where I'll hang on to it because if I get really bored on the day, I just want to be able to crack it open and just open up some packs of this stuff. So it kind of just sits here.
That's awesome.
I've got some stuff that I keep to the side. It's nice to have it from occasion from time to time. I don't remember how much those are. I think it's like $50 or $60 or something, whatever it was, but it's not crazy. The idea is I want to have something like on a really rainy day where I'm just kind of super bored. I'm like, all right, today is the day we're going to crack this thing open and look at it. Mm-hmm. Who knows? There's some decent cards in there that you can pull, but it's like, that's not the expectation. The expectation is like, nope, look, today's the day. I got some packs lying around here. Today's the day we're going to do it.
Yeah.
So, the other thing we should mention too is we talked about briefly over the last few episodes, but the website yesterday I got the version. It should be live and ready to go. Well, it will be before the Toronto Expo. Mm-hmm. So everybody that submits will be able to check their order status. Good. We're still working on a few things internally. So anyone that submits with Luke, Kevin, me, or under the PSA, all of us under the PSA Canada umbrella will be able to track the stage on your order, which is just, I mean, we're doing it obviously for the customers, but I think we're doing it more for ourselves.
Oh yeah,
that's the best kind. That's the best kind of customer service, the self-serving kind.
It is. It's self-serving, but it's the number one thing. I can say this is a great story. I had the world's nicest this week. The last couple of weeks, it's been very testing because there's some orders that are lagging a little bit behind. We're trying to get them back, and trust me, there's no one in the world that wants to get the cards back more than myself, Kevin, Luke. Like, we want the cards back to the customer. Like, that's what we want more than anything. So anything we can do to push it. But I had an email from a very nice guy, and it said, "Hey, Sherry and Brad, hate or not hate. How do you, his exact wording? Sorry to bother you guys. Any chance that you see where my March order is it going to be back anytime soon?" And I looked at it and I went, "March order? Like we don't have anyone's March order still outstanding." And then I went, "Oh my God, I've had an order here of 15 cards that has been back since May." It was an economy order that it got returned, but I didn't have the paperwork to match up a part of that. I had no ideas who it was. So it sat here forever, and it was a great order. Like there was an Austin Matthews PSA 10 Young Guns. It was a good, like, I don't know, maybe a 10, 15K order. So it was sitting here, and I had it in a pile with a big question mark on it. I said, at some point, somebody's going to reach out and say, "Where's my cards?" And it was economy order, so it should have, and nothing. And this guy, I won't use his name. But anyways, just like out of the blue, I'm like, oh my God, I was so extremely happy. It's like, I was thinking it would be a little bit, but I'll never be that guy that asks where my order is. So there's a lot of people out there that are super nice. So,
well, there's a time and a place. Well, I don't know if you remember, but we did the thing where we did the episode where we revealed my order from the last Expo, and we showed the cards off, and then we showed the cards off on my stream the other night, and we did all that. But then at some point, I reached out and go, "Hey guys, you gonna bill me?"
yeah.
and it turned out, and it's, you know, I like the cards. Obviously, we've got them. We've got the grades and everything. We literally showed them off, and it's like, and it turned out it was just the email was wrong. We just needed to update the email because I wasn't getting the invoice. So it's like, I can't pay what I don't have. I didn't see what it was. So then I paid it and we took care of it. We settled it up. But I just laugh. I was like, but yeah, even in a situation like we all saw it. We all saw the cards. Yeah. And it's like, hey guys, so are you going to bill me so I can get the cards?
Yeah. I think right now we probably have, I'm going to say, I don't know how many Kevin and Luke have, but I'm sure they have a few. I have 150 orders sitting here that we're just waiting for payment. Which is it's another part of the job. I mean, that some people just don't understand how, you know, there's lots of different reasons. Either we could have the wrong contact, or the person, when they submitted them, they just don't have the funds right now. And we're always willing to work with anybody. There's no rush. There's no panic. There's no gun to your head. Just, it'd be great if you contact us and just let us know that they're not. I think from the Vancouver show, when did we do the Vancouver show, Luke? That was in
April, yeah.
April. So April of this year, we did the Vancouver show. Cards were all at the levels where they were back within like 60 days, 90 days, in that range. So I think we still have maybe say 10 or 12 orders that people submitted that are just there, not paid for. We reached out. And so if anyone does ever watch this and they know someone that that submitted an order in the past and is looking, just reach out to us anytime. So.
That sounds fair. Eric, I will not be extending you those payment terms. Yeah, I expect prompt and immediate payments. So you better get catwalking. If that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do, buddy. Do what you got to do. It's completely fine. Let me read a couple of these here. So Dave says, just curious if any of these fractional companies set up at Expo. I haven't seen specifically, but I'm fairly confident they're going to be there. I don't think it's a fractional company, but what does Mint Link do? The one who does the trade night. What do they do? I'm sorry for the name.
Breaker. Yeah.
Was that? Sorry?
They own 4 stores in the GTA.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So it's a chain of stores? Gotcha.
Yeah, they do a big breaking page called Breaks After Dark.
Okay.
And yeah, they're all over whatnot, all over the streaming services, doing that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Last time they had a fractional company there.
Last time Liquid Marketplace was set up, I don't know if they're setting up this time or if they're going to set up with... They had another one too, but it was tucked away in the corner of the, not June, but the one before that. Just tucked completely into the corner. Never would have noticed. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they will be there either, though, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Now, here's a question. Liquid Marketplace. Liquid Marketplace is the one with Card and Rye?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, but here's the question. Isn't Card and Rye now working with Tag? Because he was doing something with them, so I'm wondering if they're still... Look, it's a lot of intermingling with a lot of companies in the space right now, and it's just a general statement I am making. A general statement. It's complicated. Like, I pay good attention to it, but it is complicated in these streets. Like, I lose track after a while. I was like, okay, so you're with who?
Yeah, my understanding is he does a lot of acquisitions for Liquid.
Yeah.
Like the stuff that they feature on their site. but I know for like he's definitely working with Tag. Like he has posted on some of the Facebook groups that they're setting up at the expo, so they'll be there. I'm sure
I've seen the social media posts. That's like, look, to be clear, part of the point, I've said it already. Part of the point of the show is we don't ignore reality. We don't ignore other players in the space, and I'm not saying anything good or bad about it. I am merely posing the question and making the statement. It's on social media posts. You can see it. It's there. That's why I just asked the question just to clarify, to make sure I was seeing and remembering correctly. And that's what I saw. But then also that does, anytime you have anything like that, there's nothing necessarily wrong with it, but you have to be very clear the line of delineation between the different entities that you're working with, because it gets murky, it gets complicated when you intermingle between a lot of these related hobby related companies. It gets complex. It can get complex really fast and be like, okay, but have you made sure that everything is aligned or firewalled in such a way where it's cool that we're doing this stuff? Like, can we do all of these things? In theory, yes. Under the right circumstances, you totally can. But you got to be like, okay, so we have established what the lines are and what relationships you've got going with who and what's going on here. As long as we got all that, fantastic, great, cosign, awesome, sounds good.
Yeah, and I think he also has his eBay consignment page, Slab Sharks, which is the main focus that he, I believe, runs.
That sounds right. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Just wanted to double check. Make sure I wasn't misremembering or seeing it incorrectly. Eric here says Corey told me he's coming up again, so perfect. Yep. He'll be probably riding in on the hat too. So it'll be Tim and Corey and Eric all on the hat. They'll be floating in. Nova says, anybody going to the Halifax show?
So we have 112 tables for the Halifax show this Saturday. All will be in Montreal, but 112 tables and 42 dealers. So great turnout. It's going to be another great show. So
very nice. And Dinesh here. Good evening. Hey team, noticed PSA Canada's Instagram didn't see any pricing for getting cards graded reslab because of damage. Can you please guide with regards to that? So if there's damage, what is the policy in that regard?
Yeah, so if it was damaged during the process of getting the card back from us or from PSA directly, depending on how you submit it, just reach out to us and let us know. We'll be happy to take care of that. If it was damaged and after the fact by yourself, that would have to be resubmitted as a reholder. And our reholding pricing right now, it's about 4 months for reholders. We're still waiting on a few reholders to come back from the last Toronto Expo. Reholders were coming back in 30 days, but now it's 4 to 5 months for a reholder. So I don't know if that will ever switch, but you can go on psacard.com and take a look, and it will actually say now 4 months, which is great. So we did not know that last time. So that's something that PSA is being very clear with now. So
there you go.
Reach out to us, and we will be happy to help you out.
And then you can drop
$30.
What's that?
I said, and then you can drop
$30.
it off at the store. He's a consumer of mine.
Gotcha.
Oh yeah,
there you go.
Perfect. There you go.
Gotcha. Perfect. Sounds good. And then KD wanted an update, so Sherry's got that. That's perfect. All right, guys. So what we'll do is we'll chat here for a little bit longer. If you've got any other questions, throw them in the chat. We'll get into that. So we've touched on, like I said, we touched on Montreal. We've got that covered. We'll talk, like I said, next week will be a little bit more talk about Expo because we'll be on the eve of it. So we were coming up right against it. So any last minute conversations about it. And if you got any questions, you check out the replay. You got any questions about plans for Expo, what's coming up here, ask away because we'll make sure to have that covered. And we'll make sure to talk about that some more next week. Next week will be a good week for all the Expo talk. I'll be working on some stuff on my own channel, talking about that a little bit as well, planning and doing all that. It's going to be interesting because, like I said, I think there's a lot of people in the same boat as me who have a more restricted budget or have a controlled budget. In my case, I'm finding too much stuff and it's really causing me troubles because it's like, all right, so by the time I get the show, it's like, so what do you guys got? Let me see that dollar bin over there. That might have to be where I have to go because it's looking rough these days. Plus, we actually may have some product, heaven forbid, and I got to pay for that too. So, like, if we actually have some product that comes in, oh my God, I might have to pay for that.
You will have some AEW.
That's what's supposed to be. That's the one. So we'll have to see. We'll talk about that because it might be because I'm thinking, and I hear the rumor. Billy Cilio from Upper Deck might be coming up, and I might do a little video thing with him and be like, all right, Billy, this better be the good one. You gave me the marked case, right? You gave me the marked case, right? Like we agreed. This was the good one, right? Just saying. If I don't get the marked case, we're gonna have some problems. There are gonna be consequences and repercussions, my friends. Consequences and repercussions.
If you're gonna crack AEW, make sure you do it where I want to see it. I won't open it myself, but I want to see it.
Well, that's what's going to be fun. Like that was a situation where, like, yeah, I'll take that. I'll take a box of that. I'm interested. Normally, I wouldn't touch it just because it is expensive. That stuff is expensive. In this case, it's 7 cards. So, so whatever you get is what you're going to get. This one is the higher end product that they're releasing, and it is a good precursor for the next, because the next one is going to be another flagship type product. That's going to be the next one that's going to come out whenever it's going to come out, and then they're going a Metal Universe, and I'm like, PMGs. Oh, PMGs. Oh, brutal, heinous.
I got
Why?
the Upper Deck E-Pack for the Marvel metal.
Yes.
That was rough. That was it's different when you can tangibly hold the box and you can, like, you spent the money on it and you're holding it, but when you spend the money and you just like fire through the packs online, it doesn't feel like you're spending $480 a box. Like,
Yeah. Well, I laughed because one of the things was that I had to give Billy a hard time, and I still will give him a hard time. After all was said and done, for the original issue, we never got blasters up here. We never got the blasters. So the retail blasters never hit the shelves here, as far as I can tell. I've never seen them in this
Marvel?
side. No. For the AEW. For the
AEW.
AEW. And but the product came out a long time ago. Those blasters have been out now forever. So like literally, and I told Billy, it's like, do I need to get you to smuggle them across the border? Is that the only way we're getting blasters on this side? Like, do I need you to physically mule them across the border for me? Because that might be the last straw. And after that, frankly, the least he can do is give me the properly marked case. That's the least this man can do. He owes me. Because I
was gonna
bought
say,
E-Pack.
retail's gotten very expensive on well, Upper Deck and Panini side. Tops lags behind a little bit, but
Yeah.
I bought some of the blasters of the Upper Deck metal, and I was surprised at how expensive it's gotten for retail stuff.
Yeah. Well, all I can say is I don't want to admit publicly how much money I spent on E-Pack because I couldn't get the stupid blasters just to try to pull some stuff. It's very aggravating, is all I'm trying to say. I'm very upset and angry, and I am owed things. All I'm saying is that whatever, I don't care. It's like, I don't care how he's going to do it. That AEW Spectrum product had better have like super fractors. So we don't have super. You will get super fractors, and they will be in that pack. I don't care what you got to do.
Just
Make
all
it happen.
super fractors.
All super fractors. Everything is a 1 of 1.
Yeah.
It's like I don't care what it is. I want the most expensive one because y'all owe me. And as far as we're all concerned, the fix is in, and you're damn right the fix is in. That's how we're gonna do it. So Dave here says REH should be posting a pre-war auction the next couple of days. I'm told definitely be worth a look. Fair enough, Dave. Appreciate that. Bobby Burrell, good evening. Big red marker case, facts. Bobbles and bar cards, good evening. I heard Edgar's paying for everyone's lunch here, facts. I have a PMG, he doesn't. Okay, here we go. Oh, this was a very open-ended one. Okay, let me touch on this one in a second. I love the question, but it's open-ended. Please block B from the chat. Bobby Burrell, you want to block Bobby Burrell? You're a jerk. We're ignoring that. Let me ask this question, then we'll come back to that other question as well. So KD and Luke, so you guys, what type of cards do you gentlemen collect? So Kevin, Pokemon, anything else, or is it predominantly Pokemon? What's kind of your flavor?
I dabble in everything. Primarily Pokemon. So I have, right now I'm working on master sets 1999 through 2010. So I think I'm like halfway. I sent Brad my set registry. It's getting there. It's slowly coming along. But yeah, so that's the primary thing. I get into like the Leafs. I try to grab the Leafs before they go very expensive. Like I got Marner, I got Matthews, those kinds of guys. I'm a big hockey fan, but I don't crack any hockey really unless I get a really good deal on it. But yeah, it's primarily Pokemon, but like I'll dabble in anything that I think is cool. I'm big into like the art, so I went heavy into Marvel because I love like the art stuff and that kind of stuff. I thought was really cool. So just everything. I just collect it all. It doesn't really matter.
Gotcha. And Luke, you mentioned when we talked about looking for, you mentioned Jordan stickers, but you also mentioned, I think, some Marvel as well. That was another thing.
Yeah. So stuff I collect are more or less like stuff that's sentimental value to me.
Sure.
A reason why I collect this stuff, or reason why I want to keep that and stuff like that. I love cracking new product. Cup, Series 1, Series 2, whatever. I love cracking it. It's like an addiction for me. It's my crack. But with that stuff, in order to make my money back, I got to go and grade it. So then I grade it and sell those things. But for stuff myself, I collect is like, yeah, definitely for sure the Marvel, 90s Marvel, 98 Jordan those little stickers, they're my, I don't know what the description is, beam of my existence or whatever. Because I mean, PSA 10s and some of them are so hard to do, and I want to get the whole collection, the whole thing of PSA 10s. I got about half right now, so
Okay.
That's awesome.
Like it. Okay.
Luke, I pulled this from Marvel.
Yeah.
So
So that's
one of
the
one-
Spider Gwen, right? Spider Gwen.
that's a
So
101, right?
Yeah.
A sketch
I
card,
have
yeah.
no idea.
Nice. So this was the other question. All dim game plays. Good evening. Where do you guys see the hobby in 5 years? The infamous 5 years. Good or bad? I see the hobby being 5 years older. That's always my favorite response whenever somebody says, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" I say 5 years older or dead. Those are my options, and I'm very confident in that prediction. By the way, I'm very confident in that prediction. But where do you see the hobby in 5 years? That's an interesting question. Good or bad? Okay. So, do you guys want me to go first, or do you want to take a second to think about it?
Go
Okay.
first.
I'll go first. Okay. I think we're going to see right now the current correction in a lot of categories is going to continue. I think there's still going to be a little bit more room for pullback in a couple of categories. Some stuff is going to do just fine. It's like what always happens. There's always going to be, even when things are retracted, even things are pulled back in general, someone is always making money. Now, a lot of people won't, but there will be plenty of people who will. And most of them won't be bragging about it. They'll just be doing quietly in the background and enjoying and kind of cackling to themselves, and they'll be kind of doing their thing. And you will find out who those people are in time. That's where you're going to find out. 5 years, you're talking 2027. So that's an interesting situation, because by then in the hobby, by that point, I expect the Fanatics deal will be done. I expect at that point, Fanatics will pretty much own all the licenses that Panini currently has and that Topps currently has. So you're going to have basketball, football, and baseball all under Fanatics banner by that point. So either they will be running it or they will have subleased it potentially to somebody else. Depends on how much money they see in it. So at that point, they also have a deal with the Players Association. So the nature of new product is going to be very interesting in 5 years. That's the X factor. That's why I said I separate two things. I'm giving you all this context because I think it's important. And also you guys can piggyback off of it. So steal anything you want. Mm-hmm. The context is important because the hobby will always be there. There will always be collectors. There will always be people that are interested in these things. That's the nature of it. That's why somebody can stick around longer. I've been doing this for 32 years. So the majority of my lifetime, I've been doing it for 32 years. Not everybody can say they've been doing it that long or that consecutively long. A lot of people have been, oh, but I collected 40 years ago. Yeah, but you took like a 25-year break. That doesn't count. That's not the same thing as 32 consecutive years watching different eras, watching the tide come in and out a bunch of times, and seeing different iterations of it. I have been able to see that, fortunately for myself. But the point is, the collector will still be there. What they collect, though, will change and evolve over time. What they're interested in will change and evolve over time. The guys that are like vintage, it's like, that's fine, but you don't want everybody to get into vintage or else the prices go to the moon and they complain about that. Like, I've seen it. I guarantee it will happen if that played out. The new will have a place because a lot of people do want the new. They want to associate the games they can watch on TV, the properties they can watch. If they're watching Marvel, the latest Marvel movie, they want to be able to collect their favorite characters. That's all going to play into it. That's got to be part of it too. You can't ignore the current forever. That's going to be part of it. That doesn't mean everybody's going to collect the current. Some people will collect vintage, some people will collect current, some people collect a little bit of both. And that's going to be that's the health of the hobby. That's the real health of the hobby. I think it'll be healthier than it is right now because we're going to cycle through a lot of folks that are a little bit weak hands who were in it predominantly for profit. But just to be clear, the speculators will not go away. They will simply recede, and then when times are better, they will roll right back in. So by 2027, you're probably going to have a chance to do a full cycle. So we'll probably bottom out and then start creeping back up. So by 2027, we may be in the middle of another mini run. That's kind of where I would see that timeline running by 2027. All right, guys. So I bought you plenty of time. Who wants next?
I'll go.
Go ahead.
I agree with you. It's hard to really predict where the new issued cards and where that market's going to be. It's hard to say. Obviously, Fanatics as the takeover and what Upper Deck does, but as far as the hobby goes, the hobby is always going to be here. Just like you said, Carlos, it's stronger now than it ever was. There's more people in it now than there ever was. True collectors, guys. There's a lot of guys that came back into the hobby now that left the hobby and they've been there for the boom. And I look at them and they're not leaving. They truly love it. They love the connections they make with people. And I'm not sugarcoating things. Yeah, prices dropped. We can't control that, but I keep talking about the volume is there. The transactions are there. People are still buying stuff and putting it away and enjoying it. And I see it every single day, right? There's no shortage of that. So a lot of the new people, the people that were just in it to flip and make money, the majority of those people are probably out of it right now. But the amount of people that came back into the hobby that were out of the hobby and are still in the hobby are going to be there in the next 5 years. So I think we're in a good position. I think the correction was needed. Things were just inflated way too much. And I think in 5 years, there'd be lots of changes, but us good old boys will still be on here chatting about this exact same things, waiting for who knows what the new wrestling will be called. Who knows? But
Well,
we'll still be
actually, in 5 years, I will be collecting 2023 Upper Deck Metal Universe because by then it will have come out. So by then I'll be chasing the PMGs for 2023 by 2027.
Yeah. So I think we're in a great place. I truly believe that, and that's not no smoke and mirrors, no anything. I think we're in a good place.
Sounds good. All right, Luke or Kevin, who wants next?
You want to go, Luke?
So you know what? I agree with both of you guys. I think right now what I see is, when I do some submissions, and like Brad knows and Kevin knows, usually the people that come to do submissions at the shows, first thing they say is, I don't know what to do. I don't know. I've never submitted cards before. This is my first time submitting cards, blah, blah, blah. And then the story comes after that is that back in the 90s when I used to collect, I collected when I was back, 20 years ago and stuff. And now I'm getting my kid into the collecting again. So there's a lot of people that are coming in back into the business or back into the hobby because they enjoy it and their kids love it even more. Like their kids love the hockey. I mean, there's like let's face it, there's more sports games out there right now on TV than there were back in the 90s. There's more of everything that we can see now that there was now than there was back in the 90s. And that's driving a lot of people, a lot of interest and stuff like that. And I think the biggest thing is that, yes, there's going to be people going out, like Brad said, people that are investors that put, thousands of dollars into the hobby and now they've lost and now they get out because that's what it is. Well, you know what? They're not in the hobby. They're in for the collecting of the, it's like if I was putting money into stocks and I lost money into stocks right now, I don't think I'd be sticking in there. I'd be out of there too because I don't know anything about it, right? Mm-hmm. But I think the biggest thing is that, a lot of people are having the fear of what it was back in the 90s. Back in the 90s, I built probably about 720 full Upper Deck Series 1 sets back in 1990-91. And I'm talking complete 500 card sets, and I sold them for $50. I remember one Christmas time, I made $5,000 in high school selling these complete sets, which are great because they're, complete sets, but now they're junk, right? Mm-hmm. But I think what it is that a lot of people now have the fear that it's going to be like how it was back then. But it's not. I don't think it's ever going to be the case like that because back then it was like there was no numbered cards. There was no strict on what it was. It was like, I guess some people say it's like Pokemon. They can reprint it if they want. They reprinted more cards and they came out with more and et cetera, et cetera. And there's so many sets. And now there's a lot more sets, but a lot of these sets also come with numbered cards. Yeah, there's different variation stuff, but you've got to go and you can only have so many cards out of 50, which is only 50 cards out of there, right? So, I think it's a very different game. And I think back, like, to answer the question, what is it going to be in 5 years? I don't know. But I think it's, fear is only going to go and drive you down if you're scared of it. But I think if you're into the hobby like we are now and, we're talking about it and, we're enjoying the opening packs and enjoying, grading cards and, talking about cards and stuff, it's still going to be the same in 5 years' time than it is right now. Mm-hmm. That's what I see.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. One other thing I'll add in as well is that even during that really heavy production period where obviously the bottom fell out of a lot of things, it was very funny because I used the analogy of right in the middle of the biggest overproduction era, the decline was coming and all that. And I talk about 93 Topps Finest refractors and, 94 baseball strike. You get hit with the double whammy of overproduction, baseball strike, all this stuff hits at the same time. NHL had a lockout around that time too. Like everything got hit. Everything got nailed all at once. Okay. Then right around 95, 96, Ripken is starting to approach the numbers, for the consecutive game streak and doing all this stuff. And what's on the hot list? 93 finest refractor, Cal Ripken. And to this day, those refractors, even of like relatively common guys, still sell for decent amounts. Why? That's smack in the middle of the overproduction era. Why? Because the cream rises to the top. The stuff that people still are interested in, or the stuff that people want, still goes. The stuff they made 5 million of, yeah, it's not going to be worth a heck of a lot, of course. And there's stuff today that is produced in way higher quantity, not in the millions, but it's produced in more quantity than people want. So that's fine. That's okay. Doesn't matter. It's going to be the stuff that people still have some interest in that's going to hold. And that's the stuff that's going to have some value. And I'll touch a couple of these comments here real quick, and then Kevin, you'll have your crack at it as well. So Dave here says, in 2027, Kinetics has crashed and burned. Topps repurchases license 25% is now issuing wax packs with gum. So first, Topps is owned by Fanatics. So you're out on that. Second, for 75 cents, they may as well go out of business for their own sake. That's pointless. And also, no one would be interested in buying it. If it's 75 cents a pack, it's garbage. Don't even need it. That's right. Stay out of vintage. Cards are old and smelly. See, you're right. You got it. As a store owner, you're worried about what happens to Fanatics at the Key to Kingdom. I'll come back to that in just a second. Hang tight. Brad, I thought of you a few days ago. I was watching a YouTube video and they were talking about the top and value of the Brady SP rookie. I vaguely recall you mentioned before about selling one. See? Buy the dip, Brad. Buy the dip.
You know what? I get two great stories. I'll keep it brief, but I bought the PSA 9 SP Brady back about 10 or 12 years ago, and I paid I'm going to say it was like $800, $700 or $800, whatever it was. And I was so happy that I had it. And then I ended up selling it for $6,000 or $7,000. And then I was mad at myself. So then I went and bought a big Brady deal. I know Luke was kind of assisted me on some of this. And I said, I'm never selling the Brady. And then all of a sudden I started to look at it. I'm like, I think I might sell it. So I did. I sold the SP. It was a BGS 9.5.
Ooh, Eric's favorite.
With 4 subgrades of 9.5. I tried to cross it over at PSA for a PSA 10 to take the chance at it. It didn't cross. I kind of figured it wouldn't, especially being in the case. And I sold that on PWCC. Mm-hmm. So I don't know where they're at right now. I probably should take a look, but
gotcha.
Yeah.
I'll read a couple of these here. Eric says, UD just shut down the Griffey rookie machine for the night. It starts up again at 9 a.m. That's right. David says, numbered cards are a dime a dozen. There are. Yard sales will soon be popular with all kinds of stuff. Numbered rainbows, there'll likely be 1 or 2 that stay popular. That's weird, Dave. I think a lot of the 50s vintage is a dime a dozen. I can go on eBay and buy it all the time. I don't know what you're talking about. Stacks of it, as much as I want. I just got to pay for it. But it's there. None of it's rare. See, this is the fun part. And by the way, Dave means this sincerely, and I enjoy it. I appreciate it. But I want to point out, a lot of the vintage sets are super common. They're super available. There's people who have hundreds of them, thousands of them. Now, the good news is that it's not printed in infinity, but the demand isn't infinity. A lot of the commons for a lot of those 50 sets, no one wants. So it doesn't matter. Oh, but there's only 5,000 of them in the world. Cool. 3 people want them. So that means there's 4,997 too many. Burn them all, and then maybe we'll talk. Until then, who cares? And like I said, Ivan is a vintage collector, someone who collects vintage. There's a lot of those sets I don't give a crap about. Dave loves the pre-war. Guess what? There's a lot of those sets I don't give a crap about either. You couldn't sell them to me for $1. I might buy them for $1 and then sell them to somebody else who wants them, but I don't want them.
You know, we talk about it all the time. I'm not being a collector of all 4 sports. I don't like pre-war. I never have, never will.
There's some stuff that interests me. There is some stuff that legitimately interests me, but it's very specific. There's a lot of stuff that I can appreciate it for what it is. If I see it in a museum, okay, that's cool. Oh, Carlos, you want to buy it for $10? No, I don't. Yeah. Because then I'd have to have it in my house. What am I going to do with it?
Yeah. I think you did a video, Carlos, that was very good. Picking your lane or staying in your lane or whatever it was called. It was very well done. And that's the same thing. I collect for my personal collection, 51 and up. And that's it. That's where I'm sticking at. So
I think that's the thing, though. A lot of the vintage guys try to put vintage. Vintage is a very big bucket. There's actually a lot of room where vintage goes from where to where. There's a lot of room from the beginning of sports cards into whatever era you consider vintage to be. So that's great. And at the end of the day, it's like, but you have to find what you like. when I was looking at doing runs of it, I saw it already. I'll get to it in a second. But when I saw the big run of it, I was like, yeah, but there's a bunch of these sets I don't care about. It's not they're cool. It's not they don't have significant players. It's not they don't have significant cards. That isn't the issue. I just don't like them. I look at them and I go, I don't want to waste my money because I don't want them. Even if I had unlimited funds, I still don't want them. So it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't change anything. But that's my preference and my taste. Someone else is going to have a completely different preference, completely different taste. And that's 100% okay. That's the point. You're supposed to get the stuff that you want, not what everybody else says. Oh, but you got to want this. No, I don't. Just because you say so, forget that. We're not doing that. Real quick here. In 5 years, Eric will be broken in the streets, paying for the like button, so the hobby will be fine. Eric, not so much. I think this is a future I can get behind. This is a future where we all win. We all win. Thanks, guys. No problem. Still in denial about Fanatics owning tops. You're going to have to accept it. It's true. 50s tops are coming. They are. 50s Bowman as well, to some degree. Excited to be in the setup at the Halifax show again this weekend. Sounds good from the bench. Don't like pre-war. Those are fighting words. Facts. Facts. There's a bunch of sets that are just flat out ugly. It's like, but Carlos, there's only 3 in creation. Cool. That's 3 too many. Burn them all. They're hideous. They're eyesores. We don't even want to see them. How about make them 0 in existence? Let's pretend it never happened. Put it like the dodo bird. Get rid of it.
That's good. I should say to CC too. So I sold the Tom Brady BGS 9.5 for $35,000 US on August 19th. I'd be curious to see what a BGS 9.5 is today. He might be down. Yeah, I know it's down too.
A couple more losses, a couple more interceptions. The Buccaneers are playing tonight. So we're gonna have to see. Like, is Brady sucking right now?
What is the score right now?
Like, we'll have to see what's happening. They're playing the Ravens.
Want to show this too. This is the piece that came in today.
Oh, okay, interesting. All right.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Oh, they're tied in the third quarter. It's 10-10. It is not an offensive juggernaut performance.
It's 10-10 right now.
It is 10-10 with 4 minutes and 25 seconds in the third quarter. That's not a powerful offense I'm feeling there. That's kind of weak.
I have to say, he should have took advice like Serena, retired as a champ, and went out gracefully. I agree.
Brady is 11 for 21 for 162 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions. 11 for 21. That's barely over 50%.
Serena was in an interview yesterday, and she said she didn't say anything. She said that she's not retired. So there might be a chance that she comes back again too, just like Brady.
Right. I feel like true. I hope not. I feel like there is that time that you just got to go. One of my all-time favorite hockey players, Paul Coffey, he just stuck around, and he played for 9 NHL different teams. When your time is up, your time is up. And I'm getting close. I don't want to admit it to Carlos, especially right now, but Brady's got a lot.
Accept it.
I think if he didn't have so many off the field distractions, things would be all right. But I think where he's at in his life right now, things are not looking great. I hate to say, but he's still my boy.
Look, I feel for you, Brad. I would never even consider celebrating for you. Yes. Sorry, go on. You were all saying. Yeah, sorry, you go on.
I learned my lesson when I talk about Brady to Carlos. It was probably my favorite 5-minute rant that I just was underneath the table. I think when it was over, I didn't know. I
just downplayed his entire career. I discredited the whole thing. It's like I feel that I will send it to the Football Hall of Fame. It's like, was he even good? No, he's trash. He sucks.
Yeah.
Forget this guy. Out. Don't worry, I'll be there to promote it on his behalf for when they do the Football Hall of Fame thing and they need to explain his credentials. Don't worry, y'all. I will explain his credentials to you. It's like, all right, Brady, you're only getting in with a ticket. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So Eric says we don't all win. Yes, we do. Yes, everyone that matters wins. I believe I covered everyone in my explanation. CC says, "Wow, amazing Serena piece. Yeah. Very nice. If Giselle dumped you, you'd probably struggle to get 168 yards. I think that's a reasonable point." People go on about number cards. Probably Giselle saw my rant. He goes, "Yeah, he does suck." Carlos is right. Exactly, Giselle. Exactly. Get out from that loser while you still can. My goodness. People go on about the number cards, but when it comes down to the number cards in certain sets, yes. That's why I say there'll be some stuff that'll be fine. Some numbered cards won't matter, but some will actually do fine just because it is what people have some interest in. So I think that'll be good. Brad Gusk's coming to the shop next month.
With the little coffee mug.
There you go. Brady's the best QB of all time to get to play with the top 10 defensive special teams every year and gets bailed out by them. Facts from the bench. Facts.
He just went downhill in my books from the bench.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right, gentlemen. Anything else we want to touch on? We're at about an hour 20. It's actually a pretty good, good solid episode. Thank you once again for joining in and having a conversation. Any last comments? Feel free to throw them in there. Any last like buttons? Remember, I will charge Eric for it. We got to put him on the street. This man needs to be put on the street. It is so everybody wins. Remember, everybody wins when we do that. So any kind of last thoughts or anything? Again, next week will be the proper full Toronto Expo kind of preview kind of show. We'll be definitely talking about that. So we'll save some of that for that episode. And if there's any questions related to that, anybody checks out the replay. If there's any questions related to Toronto Expo, plans, questions that you might have in general, tips and tricks if you've never been to one, whatever, anything related to that, throw it in there because we'll carry it over into the next episode and we'll definitely talk about it. We can definitely speak to it. I've been to about 50 of them myself, and I think Brad's been to a ton. So like we've been to this show a couple of times, or 3. So we can definitely speak to it. You're getting there. It takes time, man. I've been to almost all of the ones since '95, and they did it twice a year. So I've been to almost all of them since '95. I missed a handful here and there, and a couple of times they didn't have them. And we missed a couple. We all missed a couple. But outside of that, I'm at about 50 and change of those expos. So I've seen a lot of them. Seen them in the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and the 2020s. So I've seen them in 4 decades of expo. A lot of versions of that show. A lot of versions. Sounds good. All right, guys. So thank you all for the comments. Appreciate it. Great participation in the chat. Have a good evening, Dave. Absolutely. Thank you. And we'll leave on this final word. Putting Brady in his proper place.
Is there a way that I can just squash that somehow?
No, there isn't. There isn't. I think we all need to absorb it and like bring it into our souls and just accept it for the reality that it is. And just enjoy it. I don't see anything wrong with this. I feel like this is a very reasonably conceived take. A very reasonably conceived take. All right. On that note, thank you all. We'll be back next Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern time, the same time. And we will let you know next week what the schedule is going to look like for the Expo because we're going to have to modify it and change it up a little bit. We'll figure it out and we'll all let you all know. Thank you for the support. Appreciate you. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have yourself a good night. Enjoy the Thursday night football. Watch the GOAT. It'll be great. Have a good night.
See you guys.
Great.